I'm not sure how many people know about aromatherapy. They hear about aromatherapy. So I'm going to cover some basics. And if you know that, then well and good. And then I'm going to talk about some ways for everyday use, because I think that's what we want to know. We want to know how it can benefit us each and every day. And I'm very happy for questions. I can keep the chat open so that if people do type, do allow that, Diana, that people can put something
absolutely.
in the chat.
Yeah.
So if somebody wants to ask a question there and then, I'm very happy to have it in the chat, and then I can look at it and come back to it later, or what is relevant. So I'll just tell you a little bit that I'm born and bred in Zimbabwe, and my father thought it was a very good idea that I study to be a pharmacist when I was 16, or when I was 17 actually. And so I studied pharmacy, and while I was studying pharmacy, I did an optional course about the overuse and abuse of prescription medication. And my question then was, why is everybody pushing it? It felt like everybody was wanting a pill for every ill. And so I started off practicing aromatherapy with that question in mind. Do you really need this, or is there another way to feel better? And I'll give you the example that really shifted after 10 years of practicing in retail pharmacy and hospital and other pharmacy. There was somebody who came in with a prescription for Valium, and she had dark glasses and a scarf around her neck, her head, and she said she wanted the script because her mother had passed away and she didn't want to think about it or feel it. So she just wanted the Valium to numb her feelings. And I remember at the time thinking, isn't it such a pity that we've arrived in a world where, wouldn't it be better if she cried and shared her heartache, and rather than dull and numb her feelings with Valium? But that was my thoughts then. I still hold that same thought today. And doctors were really quick to prescribe antibiotics, and we know that the overuse of antibiotics leads to a lower resistance. And all in all, there was a pill for every ill. And in 1991, I said, I cannot dispense another drug without questioning it. So I decided to change my direction, and I came across aromatherapy, and I studied aromatherapy. So in 1991, nobody even knew what aromatherapy was, and still today, it's a word that we hear about. We think of spas, we think of, not spa supermarkets as in food, SPAs, not SPARs. So the spa, we think of salons, we think of aromatherapy treatments being massage, and we tend to think it's like a little bit airy-fairy, or on the periphery of our, make us feel nice massage. However, when I studied aromatherapy, I came across I studied the science of it. And really, aromatherapy is a science and an art. So we've all known that medicines come from plants. So the other big question that I had as a pharmacist was, why did man think he could do it better in a laboratory? What was wrong with plant medicines? Why aren't we using them more? Because they're very reliable. And the aromatherapy oils that are now known as essential oils, they come from plants, and they are in fact the aromatic or the smell part of the plant. So I'll go back to history, and that is that, as I've said before, plant medicines have always been used, and the smell part of the plant has always been, since time immemorial, has been extracted and was used a lot by the ancient Egyptians in embalming mummies to preserve the mummies. And so certain oils act as preservatives. And then the aroma part of the plant was extracted for its perfume use, because the fragrances, I mean, you can all think about jasmine, you can think about the beautiful smell of a rose when it smells gorgeous. Many plants have lovely smells and distinct smells. So lemon has a very distinct smell, and you can tell the difference between lemon and orange if you had to close your eyes and smell either. So it's interesting that the oils have, each plant has its distinctive aroma, and the aromas were extracted for use in perfumes. And the French perfumers were the greatest. They used blends of essential oils and made fabulous French perfumes. And that's why the French perfumes are well known. And there's a story that a French perfumer was mixing and making essential oils, extracting them. He had a Bunsen burner, which is, you all remember from school days, a little flame coming from gas, and to heat up the plants or to heat up the oils to mix them. And his hand caught a light, and he plunged his hand into a beaker of liquid, and that happened to be pure lavender oil. Now, lavender oil would have come from fields of lavender plant, and how you extract the oil is that you steam distill it. So you put heat under the plant, and there's vapor that comes out like steam, and when the steam condenses, there's an oil floating on top of the steam, which is the smell molecules from the plant. So when he plunged his hand into a beaker of liquid that was lavender, his hand was immediately soothed. And this French perfumer called in a doctor, and he said he cannot believe how his hand was burnt, and this lavender oil that he's extracted for perfumes has helped heal his hand. And together they coined the phrase aromatherapy. The aromatic part of the plant was therapeutic. Prior to 1928, the word aromatherapy was not yet known. And if I tell you that in 1992 and 93, if I said the word aromatherapy, many people, about 90% of people that I spoke to, did not know what aromatherapy meant. So it's quite a recent word that's been added to our world and our vocabulary. So aromatherapy then is the smell part of the plant used therapeutically, used to make us feel better, used for healing. So how did they discover what different oils do? Because what does peppermint oil do, or what does rosemary oil do, or what does lavender do besides help for burns? So unfortunately, the world then was, a lot of research or a lot of investigation was halted by the Second World War. But there was a lot of, at the same time, what one would call anecdotal evidence and stories. So soldiers that were in eucalyptus and pine forests, even in winter, did not get as sick as other soldiers that were in fields in warmer climates, sick with flu. So it was kind of known then that eucalyptus would help for flu-like symptoms, or even preventatively. The oil tea tree, which you probably have all heard of, was known to Aborigines for thousands of years, but came into the Western world during the 1930s, where tea tree oil extract from the plant that we call tea tree was used as an anti-infectious agent. And there's another fable about that, where it was used to treat a spider bite in a hospital where the doctors didn't know what to use, but one of the Aborigine employees knew how to treat a spider bite with a poultice made from the leaves of this bush, and the extract that came out is tea tree oil. So tea tree oil is known today to be anti-infectious, and it's pretty commonly accepted. So what's happened over the years is that the essential oils have kind of been absorbed into our lives without us even becoming aware of it. We know that lavender is good for sleep. We know that orange blossom, which is known as neroli, is also helpful for sleep. And we know that eucalyptus or tea tree are anti-infectious. And there are other oils that are also anti-infectious. So there's a limit to how these oils can act, because, I mean, could they prevent, people say, can they prevent COVID? Well, they can certainly help prevent, they can help build one's immunity and prevent mild infections from occurring. So your body isn't compromised, so your body's healthier. So I do burn eucalyptus, and I keep a mixture of eucalyptus, tea tree, and lavender. And there's another one, another oil called benzoin, which many of you who are not youngsters might remember as Friar's Balsam. Old-fashioned Friar's Balsam is benzoin essential oil. And they're all helpful for chests and building our immunity. So as I said, there's a limitation. They're not going to be they're not going to be able to be used in the same way that antibiotics are going to be used, but they work in conjunction with our bodies to help build our immunities and help fight everyday infections. So that's the particular group of oils that I mentioned, being eucalyptus, tea tree, benzoin, marjoram, and even lavender or grapefruit have anti-infectious properties. As I mentioned earlier, they were used in embalming mummies, and so they prevented the decomposition of mummies. I'll come back to the ones that are useful for sleep, being lavender, being neroli, the orange blossom, being chamomile, and those are the three most commonly used ones for sleep. And once again, they don't work like a sleeping tablet where they knock you out and dull your senses. They help relax, they help calm, they help by just reducing your heart rate, for example, in a very mild, gentle manner. And so when one uses essential oils, one is reminded that it's not a quick fix like modern medicine. It is more like a slow, supportive way of healing. And so if you were to start using aromatherapy oils to help you sleep, one would have to do it alongside a belief that it will help, and alongside the fact that it's no good watching a scary movie in your bed before you go to sleep and then expecting the oils to calm you down. They'll go a little way to calming you down, but there's many other things that one can do. It doesn't, as I say, knock you out like a sleeping tablet. So then the question gets asked, what is the placebo effect then if they don't have such a strong effect? Well, I think that there's been a lot of research showing the effect of essential oils that are beyond a placebo effect. But even with conventional medicine, there's a placebo effect. If you don't believe that something will help you, it won't help you. So at the same time, believing it will, it does. And so the placebo effect is being noted more and more in traditional medicine, in Western medicine, and may have a part to play in aromatherapy. But there is a lot of scientific and valid proof and anecdotal evidence and stories that are told how helpful aromatherapy is to a person. So some of the other oils that I want to mention, it's very difficult that you can't smell any, but some of the other oils that I'm going to mention are oils like peppermint, which is very versatile. So you can imagine that peppermint is helpful for digestion, as is eating a peppermint. And peppermint also has a cooling effect when used for sore muscles. So in the same way that you would use an ice pack, you could use a menthol, which is the main component of peppermint. You could use it on your sore muscles and sore joints, and it would have a very cooling effect. In the same way, something like rosemary would have a warming effect on muscles and joints. And so if you imagine I do make up a mixture with rosemary and peppermint, then you'll get a cooling effect and you'll get a warming effect. It's like putting a cold pack on and then a warm pack on. And why would I prefer using these rather than allopathic topical creams for joints and muscle pain is because the beauty of essential oils is coming from nature and being used in our bodies. They are already in harmony with our bodies. They're already not foreign. Our bodies can metabolize them. Our bodies can break down the essential oil after it's had an effect. It won't toxify or put pressure on your kidneys or your liver. It gets broken down into its components. And if I can just deviate a little bit here and explain that in a plant photosynthesizes. It traps the sun energy, and that's our precursor or the start of the food chain. And we know that everything comes from everything that we eat originated with photosynthesis, unless it's synthetically made, saying everything that comes from nature. So plant food and animals that eat the plant food, that we then eat the animal, whether it's a chicken, whether it's a cow or whatever it is that we eat, or lamb, we are really eating what was originally photosynthesized in the plant. So that photosynthesis that happens in a plant, there's a little branch that goes off. When I say a branch, those molecules, some of them become the smell part of the plant. They become the smell molecules that now have the trapped sun energy from photosynthesis. So you can see that when our bodies break down the molecules, there's nothing foreign, there's nothing left to reside in our bodies, as opposed to, I'll give you an example, as opposed to a preservative in a fizzy cold drink, that when you drink it and your body receives this little molecule, it doesn't know what to do with it. It doesn't know how to break it down. And if it's not excreted, it gets deposited in cellulite areas or in fat areas or around our arteries and veins. And that's why chemicals are bad for us, because our bodies simply can't metabolize them, can't break them down. Whereas with aromatherapy oils, our bodies can break them down. The second, another point that I want to emphasize is that essential oils, a little goes a long way. More is never better with aromatherapy. So when I say you can use peppermint on your sore muscles, you can't go and buy a bottle of peppermint that looks like this and then rub it on your muscles. It's too concentrated. This little bottle of essential oil, no matter what it's got in it, if it's peppermint, if it's lavender, if it's rosemary, is a concentrated extract of a lot of plant. Like a field of lavender will generate, let's say, 1 kilo of lavender, and this is but 12 mils. And they generally come with a dropper top. So how would you then use it? You would use the oils diluted in a base cream, or what we know as a carrier oil. So a carrier oil is often confused with aromatherapy, an oil that looks something like that. And you can even use olive oil as a carrier oil. And it's simply a vehicle to dilute your essential oil, to spread it over an area. Now, what I studied and what the trick is to know how much essential oil to use and how much carrier oil. And that's why often pre-prepared mixtures or creams or oils are a better idea. So something that comes in a bottle like this is a pre-prepared massage oil or a bath oil. So as few as about 5 drops of the oil in, let's say, 20 mils, which would be like if you cupped your hand, that would be about 20 mils. That would be sufficient to rub on a whole leg or even a whole back. So I always say to people, if you want to mix and make your own oils, then I would get a very good book. There's one called The A to Z of Aromatherapy. There's a lot of information on websites, but I'd be very cautious about Dr. Google. So a reliable book would be a good idea. Otherwise, I would suggest that you buy a ready-made, pre-prepared product, because a little bit of essential oil goes a long, long way. And I always recommend that people should err on the side of caution. They should use less rather than more. You can always add more, but you can't take away if you've overused oils. So the side effects of overusing oils is that you would sweat a lot because they're kind of detoxifying. You could feel lightheaded if you use too much. And the antidote would be to drink a lot of water. And while I'm on the subject of water, I do want to mention something that I know as a pharmacist and having been in the aromatherapy and reflexology field for the last 30 years. And that is that water is probably one of your best medicines on the planet when we can get it. And I know it's a scarce resource. But often when I talk to people and they want something, is there an essential oil? Do I have a product for constipation? My first recommendation is drink a lot of water. Often dehydration is a reason for constipation. Same with headaches. People say, can I have something for headaches? And sure, I've got a product that you could use for headaches, something you could roll on the temples, and it's got peppermint in it and a bit of lavender. But I always say, drink a lot of water, because people tell me that you can get a headache from a hangover. You can get a headache because you didn't have coffee this morning. You can get a headache because you got a fright about something, or you're stressed, or you're just prone to headaches. But often drinking a fair amount of water, and I mean about 1.5 liters a day, is often a cure, and I mean cure, for headaches. So I do want to mention how important water is, because, as I said, it would be the antidote for an overuse of essential oils. But in the same way, water dehydration is one of the most common causes of everyday common ailments, even stomach aches. So that's just some advice aside from aromatherapy. Okay, so how do we use aromatherapy every day? You could use, if you're feeling tired, especially like that after lunch slump, if you don't have the opportunity to have a rest, which would be a better idea, you could, if you can't have a rest, because our society seems to pressure us that we always have to be doing something, but there's nothing wrong with a rest in the afternoon. But if you can't have a rest and you needed to wake up, or even at any other time, you could use mentally stimulating oils. Some of those oils would be rosemary, lemon, peppermint, and they would help with alertness. And in the same way, in the evening, I would use some lavender, chamomile, geranium, neroli. How would you use the oils? Well, you can either use the oils in creams or pre-mixed massage oils, or in a bath, where they will get absorbed through your skin into your bloodstream. And I want to emphasize something here as well. When you use essential oil products and the intention is for the oil to enter the bloodstream, it really does enter the bloodstream rapidly. The molecules are tiny, they go into your bloodstream, and they have an effect on your body. They also enter the muscle areas wherever you apply them. So if you're applying to your elbow or to your calf muscle, the oils will get absorbed into the muscles as well as into the bloodstream, where they get transported around and broken down. A lot of people ask me, why don't I make products for internal use? And I don't believe in the internal use of aromatherapy, simply because the reason that we swallow a tablet or a capsule is that it gets broken down and gets absorbed in the stomach or the intestine to go into your bloodstream. Now, the magic part of essential oils is that the molecules are so tiny that they enter your bloodstream without you having to swallow them. So why would you want to drink aromatherapy oils when you can just apply them? And even Western medicine or conventional medicine, or what we know as allopathic medicine, are moving into the idea that maybe patches are a good way for micromolecules to be absorbed straight into the bloodstream, that you do not need to take a pill. And just remember, swallowing a pill often has side effects. You know, you could get indigestion or burning, or especially with anti-inflammatories, it affects our stomachs, our stomach linings. So it would be, in my opinion, much better to apply an anti-inflammatory to the area that is inflamed. If it's all over the body, then one would have to have a bath or apply it on all over your body. But for me, that's a much better way than swallowing a pill. And I come from a very harsh view, if I can call it, of that we have been brainwashed into thinking that you have to have a pill for everything. And I'm asking you to just think differently, that pre-Second World War or pre-1950s, there wasn't the plethora of tablets that we have on the planet. And people used different ways for medicines to work. And yes, there were mixtures and people drank them. And, you know, we learned about antibiotics, and we learned about making powders and swallowing powders, which were actually plant medicines. So I just want you to think about other ways to feel better without using a drug. And one of those areas is aromatherapy. Di, how are we doing for time, and are there any questions?
So you're doing fine for time. We just actually 2:30. So I don't know if there are any questions. It's fascinating what you're saying, and gives a lot of food for thought. Anybody got any questions up till now? You can either put them in the chat or ask Dor.
Otherwise, I'll just carry on talking.
Yeah, you're doing well. You're doing fantastically.
Any questions, please do put it in the chat or take yourself off mute and ask.
So I'll ask you a question, just
Sure.
set the tone. With the aromatherapy oils, if you start them, you know, on a medication, it will tell you either in the morning or in the evening. But obviously the oils don't tell you that. Are there things that can be used indefinitely, ongoing? Or is there a time span that you should use them and then stop? What do you advocate for that?
Okay, thank you for asking that. Okay, so I don't like using anything on an ongoing basis, because I think one's body becomes a little bit immune to it, or maybe we can adapt, we learn to adapt. So my first rule is use when necessary. So if I go for a jog or a walk or a run and I pull a muscle, or if I bend over and stretch my neck, I'm going to use something topical for my neck, and I'm going to use it quite frequently initially until the effect is, until I can feel that the muscle's relaxing. So if I have an injury, let's say my neck, and I will use a product on my neck and I will rub it in, and half an hour later you can rub it in again, because I did tell you that the oils are quickly metabolized. They have an effect, and then the effect is gone 22 minutes to half an hour later. There's no more essential oil lying there. So you can reapply it. I'm using the example of, let's say, neck ache. And then a couple of hours later, it won't be so sore, but suddenly I'll move and it'll be a twinge, and then I'll apply it again. And a few days later, I won't need any. So really as needed, you wouldn't use it. For something like sleep, definitely one must become attuned to one's own body. I think sleep we could talk about forever and ever and ever. I think everybody battles to sleep. And there's a book that I can recommend, which has got nothing to do with aromatherapy. And it's called Why We Sleep. And if you ever get a chance to get YouTube videos and show them, there's a guy called Matt Walker, I think he's a scientist, about why we sleep. It is absolutely fascinating, and it emphasizes that I mentioned about water being important. The science now is showing that sleep is the single most important action that we can do for our health and well-being. So the quality of sleep is important as well. And he says that sleep induced by sleeping tablets is not favorable. And I'm not telling you all to stop your sleeping tablets, But I am saying to you that there's every reason why you should use lavender, chamomile, neroli on a tissue. You can use the concentrated oil on a tissue. You can open, I sometimes just leave a bottle open next to my bed and I can smell it. You can put it on a basin with salt in it. You can use it in a traditional burner, but then it might be too strong. So to have like an even amount of oil evaporating overnight in a salt bowl next to the bed with some oil on it is enough to vaporize overnight. And it seems to calm the body. You're just in a calmer state. Breathing deeply helps. So even smelling beautiful sedating oils before sleep automatically calms you down because you're breathing more deeply. So that you could use ongoing differently from, let's say, a sleeping tablet, which you should only use for 7 to 10 days. People should not be on sleeping tablets forever. However, our world and the way it is at the moment, many people have been on sleeping tablets for years and years and years and years. So please do not stop them because I said so. But just think about it, ask around, discuss with your doctors whether you should or shouldn't stay on them forever. And find other ways. A relaxing bath before bedtime. Thank goodness we don't have water restrictions in Cape Town at the moment. If you're in Port Elizabeth, you can't have a bath right now in Grahamstown. But having a bath improves sleep. And so in that book, While We Sleep, he talks a lot about what we can do to help us sleep well. And certainly the aromatherapy oils are very useful and that you could do ongoing. I know that if I'm more stressed or things are worrying me, I sometimes even apply the oil. I'll massage it into my chest, or I'll have a specific oil bath before sleep. I always say that it doesn't undo your problems, the anti-stress oils, for example, but they certainly make you feel better. Like if you're worrying about something and you don't sleep, the problem looks worse. If you have a good night's sleep, your problem the next day is much more copable with. So the oils facilitate that wellness, the feeling of unwinding the elastic to a place, unwinding your tension to a place where you feel that you're more able to cope. So different products, the essential oils should be used, let's say, when needed, and at short intervals for an acute situation, and at further intervals for an ongoing chronic situation. There are no oils for cholesterol or the oils that will help for high blood pressure would be used in conjunction with high blood pressure management. So I would consider that aromatherapy for what I call proper illnesses or recognized illnesses or listed illnesses would be part of a management program of thinking something other than the drug, not just a straightforward use aromatherapy to cure oil. My motto is that aromatherapy makes you feel better.
So in fact, for example, say you've got high blood pressure, it could be a good idea to put the lavender on your pillow because a high blood pressure medication would help you, but the lavender would relax you, which would also bring down your blood pressure.
Yeah. And there's an interesting oil called ylang ylang, which you may or may not have heard of. It's an aphrodisiac. It makes you feel fabulous. And that is the one that is fabulous for bringing down high blood pressure.
Okay.
So ylang ylang, it comes from Madagascar mainly. It's got a beautiful, very sweet aroma. And that used in a massage oil is helpful for high blood pressure, and it's an aphrodisiac. It just makes you feel lovely.
Okay, thank you. There is a question in the chat line.
Oh, okay. So there's been quite a lot of research about this. And when you lose your sense of smell, it's called, or some people are born without a sense of smell. It's called anosmia. People have lost their sense of smell in COVID. And apparently the oils like eucalyptus, peppermint, I don't know if it can bring back the smell, but people start smelling those stronger oils and know that their sense of smell is coming back. So the research is showing that some of the stronger oils like eucalyptus and peppermint and rosemary, it's really about a nerve that is regenerating, or your sense of smell is regenerating. So it's as your body heals, you will get back your sense of smell. So you can try with peppermint and eucalyptus. But the oils still have an effect on your body, even if you can't smell them. So in other words, if you still use neroli for sleep, even if you couldn't smell it, it would be helpful for sleep.
I hope that was okay for you, Angela. Any other questions, or just carry on talking, I think. Thank you.
What else can I tell you that's interesting? Yeah, so there's more and more research done to validate essential oil use. There's not an experiment, what do you call it? When there's research done at Red Cross Hospital here about the use of massage in children that have been suffered from burns at the Red Cross. And so there's a lot of research happening in the world about aromatherapy. In the UK, people are given, in cancer wards, are given the oils to smell to reduce stress, and with very positive results. So you can imagine that just sitting in a place where they're giving you chemotherapy and it's very sterile and stark. Imagine if they had soft lighting and music playing and beautiful smells, how it could reduce the stress and make the experience less uncomfortable. So the smells can make us feel better, make us feel differently. And they're also very connected to our old limbic system, which is our memory. So smells can take you back to a place and time and make you feel better or worse, depending. No, I don't. It's very sweet of you. I don't do aromatherapy massage anymore. It's very kind. Yeah, once upon a time I did it. And I want to tell you something. It was as healing for me as it was as healing to give a massage as it was to receive a massage. And I will tell you a lovely story about that. There's a story about, and massage means that anybody can do it. And I suggest that you bring it into your life. So there's a story, it was actually, I must acknowledge, it was in the Body Shop book, about a woman who lived in a town and a village, and she did not love her mother-in-law. She hated her mother-in-law. So she went to the wise old woman in the town and she said, please, can you make me up a bottle of massage oil? No, please, can you help me get rid of my mother-in-law? I want to kill her off. And the wise old woman said, okay, come back tomorrow. Next day she came back and the wise old woman said, here's a bottle of massage oil. And every day you have to go and massage your mother-in-law's back and neck. You don't have to look at her. You just have to massage her back and neck. She said, I don't know how to massage. She said, no, you just take a little bit of oil on your palms and you massage her back slowly and gently. So she did that. She offered her mother-in-law a massage with this poisonous oil. And obviously, over a period of time, or maybe not so obviously, she grew to love her mother-in-law, because you can't hate and massage at the same time. It brings out something that's the love energy. And she went back to the wise old woman of the town and she said, please help me. I need the antidote, because my mother-in-law started to talk to me and I started to talk to her while I was massaging. And I've grown to love her and I need the antidote. And the wise old woman said, well, there was never any poison in there anyhow, because I knew that would happen. So you can apply that principle to yourselves as well. Get hold of some massage oil. And if you don't like oil, you can use aqueous cream. Put a couple of drops of lovely smelling oil like neroli. The formula is no more than 5 drops for one person at one time to a handful of cream, let's say, that you want to massage with, or carrier oil. Just remind me to come back to carrier oil. And then you can massage your feet, your knees, your stomach, your arms. And massaging just means rubbing slowly and gently. The recommendation is always rub up towards your heart. And self-love, rub your tummy, rub your legs, rub your feet. Giving yourself a foot massage is so therapeutic. Before bedtime, rub yourself with some lovely aromatherapy cream with neroli. That's a wonderful way to have the neroli or the sleep stuff in you, the lavender. And so I just want to come back to what the difference between a carrier oil and an essential oil. So when we take the smell part out of the plant, we call it an essential oil. It is the essence of the plant. A carrier oil comes from sunflowers or nuts like almond oil, grapeseed oil. As I said, you could use olive oil. And the difference is if you put some drops of essential oil onto a piece of plastic or onto a surface, it will evaporate. But the carrier oil won't evaporate. It'll stay there and it'll eventually get sticky. That's the difference between a carrier oil and an essential oil. So otherwise you can buy ready-made massage oils, and you only need a small amount and massage your feet. It's a good way to start off sleeping better.
Are they actually marked as massage oils for feet or?
Yeah.
They are.
No, they'd be marked as massage oils. You can apply it anywhere. Wouldn't be specifically for feet.
Okay, there's another, it's not a message, but Moira, I don't know if you want you to expand on it. How does one get an answer? To what, Moira?
Can you unmute Moira maybe?
Unmute, right, I've got it. Yeah, I often write messages in the chat thing and never get any answers. So I suppose direct is best. Hi, Doryce, how are you?
Good.
Yeah, no, like, you know, there's a lifespan of a medication, 6 months or whatever. So if you buy a bottle of any kind of oil, is there a life?
Is there an expiry date, what you're saying?
Expiry date, yeah.
Right. Okay, so most essential oils last for, when I say ever, they don't oxidize. Essential oils, properly made, real essential oils don't go off because they often use themselves as preservatives. But the carrier oil and the creams often go off. So you can smell, it's like having biscuits in your cupboard. Let's say you've got Provita in your cupboard. You can smell after a while that they go rancid. The smell of the carrier oil or the base will tell you that it's gone rancid. And I would check that out. Often the essential oils also break down the cream that it's in. So it becomes very runny and it looks like it's all separated. Chuck it out. But probably 2 to 3 years is a good way to, would be a good measure of from. So they should have manufacture dates. You can just open it and smell it. The smell test is the best. If it smells okay, use it.
And obviously to keep it in a cool place.
Yes, and I can tell you that I've got some massage oils that are years old, and I use them in the bath because the essential oils are still fine. It's the carrier oil that doesn't smell so great.
And I've still got the oils that are at one of the meetings, Diana.
Oh,
wow.
right.
Good.
Conference. I've still got those.
Oh.
But then I am a hoarder, so.
Well,
enjoy them, Moira. Don't hoard them.
So I'm going to tell you something that I'm sure that most of you know that I make a range of products. And when the last thing I say to somebody if I have to hand them a product, I say, you know, it works better if you use it.
Yeah, you're right.
It doesn't work well in the cupboard. It just gets old.
No, beautiful stuff. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Moira. Okay, any other questions for Doryce? Okay, Dor, I think maybe one more story or anecdote, and that would be great.
What can I tell you? I'll tell you that.
Can I tell you something that happened, and I remember it happening? I don't know if you remember years ago, I brought my blind friend to you, and you gave her a massage, and I think you must have been chatting, and you talked about melatonin. And I didn't know that, and she didn't know that a blind person doesn't have melatonin in their body. And after being massaged by you, she went to her doctor and she got melatonin tablets. And ever since then has had a proper night's sleep. But up until the time that she came to you for that massage, she had never slept. So that massage for her was life-changing.
I'm glad to hear.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear.
But I just want to ask, can we use your products on children, aromatherapy oils on children, and what
dosage?
As one on same amount as on an adult?
No, usually like during pregnancy for children and for elderly, as we get older and our metabolism slow down, we use a little bit less. So often I'll say use half quantities for children and the elderly. It becomes a very common sensey thing that a 4-year-old that's frail can use can only tolerate a little bit, whereas a 7-year-old that's a boisterous boy and he's a big kid, he could probably tolerate a bit more. So very little for babies. And as I say, less is more. One of my rules, less is more. Less is better than more. Because you can't really take out once you've used it, but you can always add a little bit more. And especially in a baby's room, you know, I would definitely, 1 drop of eucalyptus on a tissue in a baby's room is sufficient. You don't need, just remember, and the other thing that's a good thing to finish off with, Di, is that our noses get used to smells very quickly. So if you're burning an oil for sleep or for staying awake, if you're using an aromatherapy burner, or if you've just got it in a bowl or tissues or use it as potpourri, you won't smell it very soon. And if you go out the room and you drink some coffee or smell some coffee and you come back in, you'll be able to smell it. It's the same principle as, you know, if you wear a perfume and you put it on in the morning and it smells delicious. And then by the end of the day, somebody says, what is that you're wearing? And you think, can you still smell it? I bet you've all had that experience. So that is why your own nose gets used to the smells very quickly, but it doesn't mean the smell is gone. So bear that in mind if they're babies and children in the house, not to keep adding too much more oils if you can't smell it. Oh, and one more thing. Another way, I've mentioned bath. People say, how can I use the oils in the shower? So something like eucalyptus or tea tree, if you use the concentrate oil, and this is where you wouldn't use a carrier oil, you could put a couple of drops onto a face cloth on the floor in the shower, or just in the corner of the shower, and the steam will automatically make it vaporize in the shower. So often if I'm sniffly, you could put 2 or 3 drops of eucalyptus in the shower, but remember, less is more. 10 drops, you'll have watery eyes.
Thank you for that. It's been a fascinating hour, and I'm sure that people will be looking to have aromatherapy, because we all would rather do something natural than fill up on the medication route. So if you've got any questions, where can they get your aromatherapy oils nowadays? You used to have
we have a website, aromatic.co.za, and the email is info@aromatic.co. I can type it in the.
Just type it in the chat. So anybody wanting to ask questions or to look for the aroma oils, go onto her website.
Thank you.
And Doryce, how is it sent, via a courier or?
Yeah. Mostly. Well, there are health shops and pharmacies that keep. But if you let me know what area you're in and you want something specific, I can direct you.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and
thanks for attending,
giving us a wonderful hour. Tomorrow we have the last of our legends and legacies, and in the morning we've got. Sorry, I'm just looking to see. Help me out, Amanda. Tomorrow.
Amanda's got her hand up.
Sorry.
Amanda's got her hand up, I think.
Yeah, Amanda, unmute yourself. Tomorrow morning, C Points, Rebecca is going to have a morning with her members, And tomorrow there's a special documentary at 11 o'clock. It's the Berlin Synagogue with the Golden Dome. It looks fabulous. I viewed it over the weekend. And then the last of our series, Legends and Legacies, is tomorrow afternoon at 2 o'clock. So a good day's viewing tomorrow for those of you who wish. And thanks, everyone. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, Da. Thank you.
Thanks. Lovely to have you. Be well.
Okay, before you go, I just wanted to say that my dad used to, I think I've told you before, my dad used to use her roller for joint pain on his legs and his hands. And it was the most incredible thing. We had to run around when he was in hospital, you know, late at night, and we found him at Sunset Pharmacy because he ran out. And I must say, it's just the most incredible thing to roll on joint pain, arthritis, and yeah, so I just wanted to put that out there because it is brilliant.
Thanks, Amanda.
Okay. Thanks for that last word, and go well, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.